let's taste some wine. So, it's a really interesting night to be out in the garage, messing around with my wine, because, of course, in part of Los Angeles, or various parts of Los Angeles, things are on fire. And you can hear, I'm sure not in this video, but in the background you can hear quite a bit of noises. But of course we're really far away from what's happening in Mid-City and downtown. But we're not far away from the emotions that have overtaken some of our citizens here in the United States. Some of the frustration, the anger, the hopelessness, the sense of injustice, and it makes me sad. But on a night like this, there's nothing better than to pull out a wine that is a wine of hope, right? A wine that is so good that it can make everything else fade into the background. Of course, which is a little bit hard given what's going on. But anyway, so tonight, I just opened it up. Tonight we have the GD Vajra Barolo 2010 Ravera. I don't know, my pronunciation is going to be terrible tonight. But it's the GD Vajra Barolo Ravera 2010. This is the first vintage off this property, or off this vineyard. They had bought a portion of, or this portion of Ravera years before, and one of the reasons why they had bought it was that Aldo and Milena, who are the mother and father owners of GD Vajra, they had actually, in their first year of marriage back in, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember, I'm going to say 1971, it's probably not true, maybe 72, could be 74, whatever. Anyways, in their first year of marriage, they actually lived in a little house in this vineyard. And so they always had that vineyard close to their heart, and they always wanted to do something with it. And so in sort of the middle of the first decade of the 2000s, they ended up buying a small area of this vineyard, because, of course, Ravera is Ravera is one of the larger single vineyards in Barolo. It actually covers two communes. It covers a little bit of Barolo and a little bit of Novello. Actually, mostly in Barolo, Barolo from Barolo, and then a little bit in Novello. And this portion, their vineyards are actually in the Novello portion of it. So, anyways, I decanted it. Because, you should always decant your wines. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you should also always decant it. And I got out one of my fancy wine glasses for this, because if you can't get out the good crystal, when the ship is sinking, you shouldn't actually ever get out the good crystal. So I got out the big Sommelier Series glass, and it's just fantastic. Actually, there's a great apocryphal story about this wine. So, before any of the cru Barolo can actually make it into its own cru, it has to go through the Langa Nebbiolo. If it's not good enough to be a cru on its own, it goes into the Langa Nebbiolo, and that's why the GD Vajra Langa Nebbiolo has always been one of the best Langa Nebbiolos and the best deals that you'll find in Piemonte is because most of the Nebbiolo, you know, it's younger vines, but then it's also a mix of these great single crew vineyards that, you know, just haven't, you know, gotten old enough to actually make it into its own crew program. So for a few years, this Barolo Ravera was going into the Langa Nebbiolo. And one time, a famous critic, who I won't name because I just won't, but I'm sure you can figure it out, a really great famous critic and a real wine person, you know, went to the winery and he tasted the Langa Nebbiolo, and he tasted the separate samples of the Ravera crew wines, and it was the 2010 vintage. And he said, "Hey, so if you guys don't put this into the Langa Nebbiolo this year, can you bottle some magnums for me, you know, for me separately, so that I can have them, because I think this is a great wine." And then the light bulb went off for Aldo and Milena and the whole family, that now 2010 vintage was the time to put this crew in its own bottling. So that's what it is. It's GD Vajra 2010 Ravera. I found a couple of cases in the warehouse. They're not for sale, but I just wanted to see how it was doing. And it's actually one of those. It's actually one of those happy wines. So it's going to be a happy wine. It's one of those wines that is so pure. Oh my gosh, it's just like, you know, it's everything that you want in a Barolo. It's got all the aromatics that you would want. You know, it's got the crushed berries, and it's got a little bit of licorice and a little bit of tar. But it's so lifted, it's so pure, and so fantastic that you just can't help smiling. So even if we're all going to go down on the Titanic, even if the ship is sinking, and we obviously know that that's not going to happen, because of course we have hope and we have faith in our fellow Americans and our fellow human beings, that love will win out, you know, because love is the only thing that we can have in this life, right? That's pure. But man, let me tell you, this wine, if it were all to go up in flames tonight, if I'm drinking this wine, you know, it's a good night. I think it's also the quality of the tannins. I mean, the tannins are definitely still there. It's going to be another 5, 7, 10 years before the tannins resolve completely. But it's just got that great core of fruit, and it's in its 10th year. It's really just fantastic. Anyways, enough about that. GD Vajra Barolo Ravera 2010. So, especially tonight, keep your family close. Hug them if you can. Make sure you know that, or make sure that they know that you love them, and assure them that everything will be okay, that we will make through this. We have made through worse, and there will be another day, and the dawn will rise, and we will be okay. So I hope that for your family, I hope that for your friends, I hope that for anybody that you're in contact with, and I hope that they can find justice and peace and representation and everything else that they so richly deserve.